Welcome back to the podcast of the International Fire Marshals Association. I'm your host, Robbie Dawson. In 2025, the National Fire Protection Association established an award recognizing an outstanding fire marshal whose work demonstrates outstanding leadership in achieving code compliance through education, community collaboration, and proactive risk reduction efforts. This really is an effort to recognize those IFMA members who are transforming how fire prevention and community risk reduction initiatives are being delivered and how they demonstrate success. This year, during the Stars at Night Gala at the NFPA Conference and Expo in Las Vegas, NFPA recognized the fire marshal from the city of Lansing, Michigan, Jared Nisch, for his work and success. In reading from the NFPA press release, Fire Marshal Nisch has brought a proactive, data-driven approach to fire prevention, expanding the role of the Fire Marshal's office beyond traditional code enforcement to better meet the needs of the community. His work has included launching the Lansing Fire Department's first comprehensive smoke alarm initiative, as well as developing targeted fire and life safety education for older adults, one of Lansing's highest risk population. Through public events, direct community engagement, and the creation of an interactive inflatable fire safety house, Nisch has helped modernize fire safety education for people of all ages in his community, strengthening the department's connection with residents as well. And I'm fortunate enough today to be joined by the 2026 Fire Marshal of the Year, Jared Nisch, in this episode to give us a little look into his department and his efforts and how he protects his community in Lansing, Michigan. Welcome, Chief Nisch. How are you?
I'm good. Good to see you again, Robbie.
Hey, absolutely. Well, we did meet up personally in Las Vegas a few months ago, and I was at the gala as well. Great event, well attended, and a very nice award that the association gave to you, and congratulations for that. But before we really get into that award and what it means, let's talk a little bit about Lansing so people understand where you're at, where you come from. Tell us a little bit about your career, how you got into the Fire Marshal's office, and a little bit about Lansing, Michigan itself. What type of a community is it, and how big is your department?
Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity to be on the podcast and speak with you again. So, like you said, I'm from Lansing, Michigan. It's in the middle part of the state. It's the state capital. We have a population of about 130,000 people. Swells to kind of 150 to 160,000 during the day for government. We got a couple of GM plants that are in town, so a lot of auto manufacturing, a couple insurance headquarters as well, some healthcare, and Michigan State University is just around the corner in East Lansing. My department has about 200 full-time people, about 180 sworn firefighters, and 20 civilian staff. We do about 27,000 calls a year. Probably like most of the departments around the United States, those are predominantly medical. We run ALS services, ALS ambulances, and we have a pretty good fire marshal's office. Out of those 180, we got myself and 5 inspectors, and then an administrative staff. So I'm fortunate, especially talking with a lot of other departments by size. I mean, we have one fire marshal or one prevention officer. Right. That I got a pretty robust team. And kind of my journey, I never really saw myself in this role, probably like a lot of people that end up on the days, the 40-hour side of things. You know, I kind of liked riding the trucks and being a medic, and I've always had a kind of a hobby of really getting into books and like reading, and started kind of looking at the code stuff, and somebody's like, hey, you know, you'd probably be a good fit for this. So I kind of took an inspector class in 2022, and I say that with a little trepidation because I'm still pretty new at this. I'm really new at this. I was an inspector for 8 months before the fire marshal retired, and next thing you know, I'm in charge of this thing and trying to figure out what the heck I'm doing. So it's been interesting.
A little baptism by fire there, it sounds like. What about your inspectors? Do they just do kind of existing buildings inspections for fire code type stuff, or are they involved in the construction? And do you all do any investigations from a fire investigation standpoint?
So that's a great question. So we're kind of a jack of all trades. We're not small, like I said. There's one or two departments that are in fire prevention departments, and we're not big like some of the major metro departments. So they do everything. We do existing building code enforcement. We do fire investigations. We do plan review, site plan review, and just like a lot of departments, we're really getting heavy into just not only the traditional fire education, but just community risk reduction in general.
What do you think is the biggest risk or threat in your community that you're trying to address or trying to stay in front of?
I tell you what, like most places, these batteries are been a huge deal for us, and I know it's the NFPA campaign. I believe this October is Charge Smart. I don't know if that's the exact term, but it's been a big deal. I was out investigating a fire yesterday from a battery, and it's in everything, and it's a huge risk.
Yeah, and to be official, it's the theme for this year is safe charging is a superpower.
There you go.
If I didn't get that in there, Kelly Ransdell would be on me for sure. We just recorded an episode with her and just got published, so that's out there as well. So let's talk a little bit about the award. And did you know it was coming? There really isn't another national, or in this case international, award, because it covers those chapters, and we have a chapter in Canada now as well. There isn't really another Fire Marshal of the Year award that covers that kind of geography. What did you think, or what was your first impression when you got that phone call, say, hey, congratulations, you're being recognized as the Fire Marshal of the Year?
You know, it's funny. I think you called my assistant chief who put me in for it first, right? And so he came flying down to my office in a tizzy, and I'm like, well, what's on fire, right? Literally. And he's like, if you get a call from Virginia, you have to pick up the phone call. I'm like, okay. So then you called me, and you know how the firehouse is. I'm thinking somebody's playing a prank on me or something like that. So you start getting into it. I'm like, seriously, I won this. And my next thought was, how cool is this? And again, this is not about me, right? I'm just for the most part, the admin guy that kind of sits behind a desk and kind of cooks up these left field harebrained ideas. It's my guys that are actually in the field doing this, and to be able to go to them and say, it's about internal buy-in, right? To go to them and say, hey, look, we have somebody like IFMA, the IFMA board, the NFPA, that is looking at what we're doing in Lansing, our programs, and saying, you guys are pointed in the right direction. So that was just, again, for me being somewhat new at this and kind of trying to find my way and point the direction of my team to say that we're on the right track was great.
That's awesome. And yeah, I did call Chief Odom, gave him a little bit of a heads up. I wanted to make sure first that your bosses understood what was coming with this award, make sure that was acceptable. I know sometimes there might be a little friction in taking awards like this, but he was over the moon excited as well. And I asked him, I said, hey, don't tell him, I'm going to call him in a few minutes. And apparently he ran right down the hall to you to say, hey, just answer the phone. So thanks to him for that. Well, let's talk. You mentioned the programs you've got, and let's talk a little bit about them. When you became the Fire Marshal, what were some of the things that you thought you weren't doing at the time that you really needed to do, and how did you get to be able to implement them? And was there any challenges from your organization, either the Fire Marshal's office themselves or the department overall, that kind of said, we really don't want to do this? Would you get any pushback from them?
Yeah, that's a great question. And again, I think part of my strength was being new at this. I wasn't entrenched in sort of this old school kind of thought, right? I didn't know what I didn't know, and we just kind of had to sort of reinvent the wheel. Like most departments have been around for a while, we kind of had our traditional programs, and I think like a lot of departments around the United States, when we weren't able to interact with people during COVID-19, you just kind of had to reset, right? So I came into the office in 22, and we were still doing a lot of stuff where we weren't interacting with the community, and kind of had to bring everything back together. So there was a lot of opportunity to not only just reinvent, but just trying to figure out what works for us and what works for our community. So we've had a lot of success. Kind of, you mentioned with the smoke alarm program. We're off and running. The state of Michigan is a great partner of ours. They actually furnish the alarms to municipalities, and then we install them. And we've had some really good success with doing a lot of social media, doing a lot of news interviews about the program. And for some of those other fire marshals out there too, that we've had a lot of good successes. We actually been doing smoke alarm blitzes. So paying my guys overtime to go out on a Saturday, pop up some City of Lansing Fire Department tents, get the Red Cross out there, other community partners, and literally just go door to door knocking, asking if people have smoke alarms. And if nobody's home, we made some door hangers, right? Like you see a lot of people, politicians and stuff like that around November will do door hangers, and we'll put our smoke alarm program about, hey, these are free. You know, free is always good with a big word that says free smoke alarms on there. Call 311 or our office line, and we've had a ton of success of people calling based on those door hangers. So that's a really good one. One of the things you mentioned too is senior citizens, older adults. I will give NFPA credit here too. They have a lot of really good free resources online for fire marshals, inspectors, and there's free PowerPoints for senior safety and falls. We use that all the time. I try to interact in any kind of senior events that I can, large groups. We've been going to assisted living homes, senior apartments, and that's definitely an at-risk population. And we kind of, I'm sure we'll get into some data and stuff like that, but we figured that out looking at in Michigan who's dying in these fires, right? It's veterans, it's senior citizens, disabled folks, and really trying to target fire safety to those populations.
Yeah, that's interesting. And I go back to my old job in my old department. We had a smoke alarm program as well. And we couldn't spend county funds on smoke alarms, so we had other mechanisms to do that. And it's nice that the state of Michigan is able to support that. Are they using state tax funds or some other revenue source, or are they getting grants to fund their smoke alarm initiative across the state of Michigan? Do you know?
It's a great question. To my knowledge, they are using tax funds. So our governor approved a budget, and for the last handful of years, since we've been doing the program, they allocate $1 million a year for smoke alarms. So wow. It's huge, and especially in our population, our city, roughly about 33% of the population is at or below the poverty line. So you go to Home Depot or Lowe's, and you're looking at 10-year battery smoke alarms. These things are $20 a piece.
Yeah. And
so if we go put up 5, 6, 7 of those in a home, I mean, you're well over $100. So the choice between safety and smoke alarms versus choosing, bread, milk, or medicine, people are going to choose the latter, right? And so to be able to give them something for free and show that's from their tax dollars, it's a huge hit.
That's awesome. Is there also an initiative for deaf and hard of hearing smoke alarms, those bed shakers or those other devices that are out there? Is that part of that program as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So they do furnish us bed shakers, and those things are, depending on the model, $200-300 each.
Right.
And that's part of our questionnaire that we have when our administrative assistant starts talking to these folks. Is anybody in the home hard of hearing, deaf, or whatever? And we also have combination smokes and COs and CO alarms as well that we furnish.
Awesome. Sounds like how many have you installed in the past, or per year, or what's your average, or do you know what kind of reach you've got in the city?
We did about almost 400 homes last year, and that was up from when we kind of started the program, a couple hundred. So I'm really hoping to kind of keep on at least doubling that. And that's one of the things I always do too, is when we go and do these smoke alarms, I'm like, how did you hear about the program? And just try to figure out if they heard from social media or the news or a neighbor, and try to figure out the best way that people are hearing about this so that we can get the word out better.
Yeah, expanding it from there, absolutely. Let's go back and talk a little bit about back in my early days in the fire service, the old school fire marshals were simply code enforcement. They dealt just with fire code, blocked egresses, storage, sprinkler system maintenance, and that type of thing. But it seems like the job is much broader now and seems to even be getting bigger. How have you been able to leverage that community engagement and the partnerships? You mentioned the Red Cross and some assisted living facilities. How are you able to use those relationships to improve safety for the community?
That's a great question. And you're right. You think about old school kind of fire marshal, and it's enforcement, right? It's fines, it's fees. And one thing we've really tried to do is just to get buy-in. And I'll start kind of with our business partners. One thing that we did do, and you mentioned it earlier about how we do things. We kind of had previously, like a lot of departments, a new existing kind of construction that's doing site plan review, acceptance test, certificates of occupancy, and then existing. Well, we kind of switched that up and divided our city into areas where there's one fire inspector. And that is paid off huge, because kind of from the building cradle to grave, that business owner, those managers, they know that inspector, right? They know that inspector from the site plan review to the building plan review to the CFO to the existing structures, and they're able to form those relationships where they get better buy-in from the business community. And I would say too, it's so important to build relationships before you need them, right? With whether it's with the business community or the Red Cross or the local United Way, obviously your nonprofit partners, universities, and internal and external stakeholders. So we've really tried to ramp up some of our collaboration with our property code enforcement that does more with the building side of things rather than just specifically fire systems, and our building safety office, just bringing all those stakeholders together.
Cool. Yeah, and you mentioned that that building the relationship with that fire inspector. What was rolling through my mind was it's almost that old school law enforcement philosophy of community policing. It's community fire marshaling too. Maybe is that a fair statement?
Absolutely. And I tell my guys on my team, I'm like, you know what, we have to shift the paradigm. Start with yes. And what I mean by that is work with the business owners. There is codes. There is a certain way to do something. But if they're asking to do something, whether it's a variance or want to try something new, start with yes. And a lot of times you get to no. But I think that's a very proactive, customer-friendly approach, right? And then if you can explain the why to them, why it's a no, and show them the codes and show them some statistical data on why they need to do these things, then you get a lot better buy-in.
Yeah, I've always found that works better than pointing to the badge and saying because I said so. It's
right.
That's a lot better way to do it. Well, let's kind of start wrapping this up. I don't want to use up too much of your day here. You came into the fire marshal's office kind of new and kind of as I'm almost calling it an experiment or a trial by fire. If you could talk to a group of young firefighters today and talk to them about how this part of the fire service is important, what do you think you might say to them, and maybe hopefully drag them into past that magnet to get them thinking in the same mindset of prevention versus riding on the big red trucks?
Yeah, so we had a retired fire marshal years and years ago that said that you can save more lives with the pen rather than the hose, right? And it's kind of the glorious side of the fire stuff, and it kind of goes back to there was a saying that was used in the intelligence community and some of the stuff when we were in Iraq and Afghanistan. It was called left of the boom, right? The boom was these IEDs, and so they were trying to figure out a way to prevent these IED attacks. And in the fire service, the boom is the call, right? So we traditionally associate the fire service with the trucks, with the flashing lights and, the fire ground. And if we can get to the left side of that event, and that's prevention, right? That's community risk reduction. And it's all about who we serve. And if you look at the mission, it's life preservation, property conservation. And if we can do that before the incident starts, that's ultimately what we're all here for.
Great. Well, we'll kind of wrap it up there. And lastly, again, say congratulations on the award. That does come with some cash awards to the department that you'll be using to supplement. Have you received that yet, or do you have a plan of how you're going to use those funds to supplement what you're doing locally in Lansing?
So we we're still working through how to take that in. As far as dealing with some red tape, but I would ideally like to use that for our smoke alarm program for some more CO alarms. With the state of Michigan, we're putting one CO alarm in every house. I'd like to try and do that where we're actually putting them in maybe multiple floors, right? Carbon monoxide, silent killer, that's a huge risk in these homes, especially in Michigan, where like Virginia or whatever, where there is some colder months. We are running furnaces and different things. And if not, we have a great organization in the Midwest called the Great Lakes Burns Camp, which takes kids all the way up to 18 years old that have been affected by burns and fires and gives them a week or two every summer to go be among their peers and live like normal kids. So it's a great organization.
Awesome. Great initiatives all the way around. So, Jared, anything else we want to cover? Anything else I missed that you want to talk about or share from your experience or what Lansing's doing today?
No, other than a great time at the NFPA Conference and Expo. I know it's in San Antonio next year. I'm privileged enough to go to a lot of conferences. It's the first time being at NFPA, and it was so cool seeing kind of everybody, the wide spectrum, right? If you go to a fire inspector conference, you're just there with fire inspectors. But NFPA, you had design professionals, engineers, architects, to the men and women that are installing these systems, to the fire inspectors. It really is just the full range of everybody that is in the fire protection world. So it was really cool networking and seeing the expo floor, and it was awesome. So looking forward to going back.
Yeah, Texas, they do it bigger in Texas, they say. So we're looking forward to see what we can do in Texas next June. So with that, I'll just wrap things up and just say, to share with everybody this as a reminder, the Fire Marshal of the Year is nominated by members of IFMA chapters. And Jared, being in Michigan, being a part of the MFIS, Michigan Fire Inspectors Society, IFMA Chapter 1 is how your boss got aware of this award and nominated you for it. So for any states who have IFMA chapters, make sure that you're aware of who your chapter is. And if you don't know, or if you don't have a chapter, drop me a note and we'll see what we can do about getting an IFMA chapter in your state or in your region. We currently have 35 state, regional, and provincial chapters across the U.S. and Canada. Always looking to expand that, to share the information that the IFMA members have. So make sure you touch base with me. You'll hear another IFMA podcast from Minnesota. They were awarded the Chapter of the Year recognition at our chapter meeting back in June as well. So, and if you know of a fire marshal who's deserving of this award, the nominations for the 2027 award will be open in February, and we'll be communicating that through all of our chapters about that time. So stay tuned. Lastly, thanks again to our guest today, the 2026 Fire Marshal of the Year, Jared Nisch out of Lansing, Michigan. Congratulations, Jared, and hope to see you again soon.
Yeah, thanks, Robbie.
And with that, if you have any questions for me or Jared, or any questions about an IFMA chapter, drop me a note at ifma@nfpa.org, and we'll keep in touch. And stay in touch with IFMA through the IFMA Facebook page, Twitter, and Instagram as well. And we'll talk to you soon.